Welcome to today's Fireside Chat, compelling global supply chains into the future with open networks. I'm Jett McCandless, the CEO and founder of Project 44, the world's leading advanced visibility platform for shippers, carriers, and logistics service providers. Project 44 connects, automates, and provides visibility into key transportation processes to accelerate insights across modes and geographies. Today, I'm very fortunate to be joined by Paige Cox. Are you ready for this title? SVP and Head of Digital Supply Chain Business Networks at SAP. Welcome, Paige. Thank you so much for joining me today. Before we dive into open networks and what they mean, today's global supply chains, can you give the audience an intro to SAP Logistics Business Networks?
Sure, Jett, and great to see you. Very interesting fireside chat today without fire or without chairs next to each other. But this is a great way to be innovative and stay connected. Yes, and thank you for having me today. SAP Business Logistic Business Network is an open, secure, multimodal global network. We're mainly focusing on providing end-to-end logistic collaboration among all our, we call trading partners. That's our business partners. We come from the enterprise business enablement. So now we want to extend that reach by connecting our enterprise customer to their logistic ecosystems for that end-to-end collaboration and visibility insight. So for Logistic Business Network, it is a network, it's a platform that is open and secure. It's a one place, a one-stop shop that we bring all the trading partners together for that connectivity. Among that, we also offer various capabilities to connect all the business processes to the back end. First of all, is on we call it freight collaboration. This is where we really connect for that intercompany logistic collaboration, from tendering, subcontracting, to track and trace of the freight order, to dock appointment scheduling, to settlement invoicing for that end-to-end logistic experience. We also offer another options called SAP Global Track and Trace. This we very much focusing on the visibility platform itself, not the platform provider, but the business enabler of giving you that insight and visibility to the inventory flow and then to the order fulfillment. Last but not least, we have another product called material traceability. Here's what really give you that traceability of the material, end-tier material provenance, and also the genealogy of the product. So that is something also very important in today's world when we need to bring our business much closer to environment, right? So last week I heard from our customer, one of our thought leaders in supply chain says, nature does not need us, but we need nature. So that is something on a different level of traceability and visibility. We want to give you that material to that raw ingredients and to the batch of genealogy. So these are the three different business capability combined with the platform, where we really extend from our traditional leadership in transportation management to the execution reflection of the network. Back to you, Jett.
That's great. I love that quote from your customer that nature does not need us, that we need nature. I couldn't agree with you and your customer more. So that's great. Well, SAP is doing a lot of great work to improve supply chain collaboration and GTT, the Logistics Business Network, and more. I know at Project 44, we were excited to partner with SAP because we have similar approaches and similar ideas on how building these networks can benefit customers. What we would call on the technology side, these network effects not only are very strong for the value prop that they provide to everyone that's involved in the ecosystem, which is really why we're here today. So maybe let's start with why open networks are essential for logistics. Working and consulting logistics for myself, I saw a real problem of information asymmetry. There's so many parties involved in the ecosystem, as you mentioned, and everyone had different information. the dispatcher, the producer of the raw materials, the distribution center, the store, the consignee, whoever it was that was in that ecosystem. And that's why I set out to build Project 44, to be that connective tissue with a scalable network that empowers everyone to have the same reliable insights in real time. So it's exciting to be part of SAP's vision in a situation where we could be accretive to what you all are building. This connectivity and access to data has been a problem in logistics for since I started in 1999, and of course, I think well before that. But I think over the last year, it's really been exposed even more, and we've seen it at a higher level in organizations. As some of our sales reps like to say, they used to go in the elevator and hit at the main floor of a lobby, they'd hit the down button and go down and see folks. Now when they go to prospects, they hit the up button and go to the top floor of these prospects. You know, it's becoming heightened at a higher C level. So Paige, why do you think we're seeing this acceleration at SAP, and what do you think is really driving that over the last year?
Yeah, we of course when we first started the journey, and when we started an amplifier partnership was very much solving the pains of the one-to-one, and then the quality of data for that really insight to action capability. And I think you highlighted very, very well. But if we look at this reflection of the past months, right, joking aside, what COVID and different disruption of the world, whether it's COVID-19 that's among us today, that's real and it's difficult, or it's Brexit, or it's the trade wars, or it's with the different tax tariffs. It's basically putting supply chain and putting logistic into really a different agenda today. Every CEO, every company now have to relook at a resilience and agility. Because in today's economy, when I talk to our customers, our partners, and our thought leaders in the industry, everyone is discussing about the challenge among all these uncertainties, right? Uncertainty about the supply, critical material, where they come from, the demand, and where's the real demand, and how do you match that supply to that demand? And then where's your resource and your labor and your services coming as well. So when the world started going into isolations, then supply chain is basically really at its breaking point. And the piece that's sticking all the supply chain together, whether you're designing a product, manufacturing a product, operating a product, or procure a product, that logistic is the one that interconnects it all. And logistic today, in the past, is more of a commodity because we can move trucks and boats and planes, but today we cannot. So now we need a new way of really get access to that data and then to get that visibility so we can really steer, right, our entire supply chain, and not just my own supply chain, not anymore, not that I have my ecosystem and my value chain connected. Now I cannot do it alone. If my suppliers in China are not able to produce for me, then I cannot produce for my customers. So it's this circular economy of a downstream spiral. So I think we are in a very strategic topic to almost give back to the society, because not only that companies realizing they have to go beyond that company four walls, they need the data, but they also need a network to really orchestrate that. For that, really ultimately in the end, that the agility and resilience, which we have not been thinking about in the past, right? Because in the past, we were more thinking about cost, more thinking about what's the raw material price for my procurement, but we never combine the cost of serve, the availability of serve together with the cost of material. So we are definitely onto something very big and quite challenging for our customers. I mean, you must have learned a lot during this whole crisis, seeing, demand and supply, seeing things being pushed, certain industry doing well, and certain industry maybe slowing down. perhaps you can also enlighten our audience a little bit of how, as the tissue, as the connector, that where do you see all the movements and trending in the last few months?
Well, I think you said it really really well, and I agree with you that the trade wars, COVID, and I'd also say in the U.S. we'd call it, and I see it happen in Europe also, the Amazon effect. Those all three of those coming together has really created that situation that you mentioned of resilience and agility being more important than cost. And for so long, to your point, I think we saw transportation just be that commodity. And I think what we're seeing now is that carriers, regardless of mode or region, that they're really able to differentiate themselves through some of this better connectivity and being able to provide information in a synchronous way that allows these companies to move their supply chains dynamically as needed to meet their needs, whether it's a change in demand or it's a change in supply. It's really quite impressive. We're seeing overall, we're seeing shipment levels and obviously food. We're seeing manufacturing in the U.S. pick up. We're seeing manufacturing even in Europe pick up. Consumer goods, obviously, really strong demand. Then we're even seeing some retailers in e-commerce companies. Of course, Amazon is a customer of ours. They're seeing huge spikes. But then other retailers like Dollar General, Walgreens, companies like that, where we're seeing these larger spikes and increases. So it's really interesting to watch this all come together. And then, of course, we have other customers and other industries that are having real challenges with not being open. And they are not only are their stores not open in many cases, so they have tremendous revenue pressure, but they also have disruption with their suppliers. So it's all, each company, each vertical seems to have its own set of challenges. Then of course, then you look at the pharma industry, which is really interesting to watch what happened. And this is what's so interesting, I think, about LBN, is this broad vision for multimodal and really large geo footprint. And we're seeing companies like the pharmaceutical companies that would have traditionally only shipped air freight when there was a shortage of air have to switch to ocean for products that they certainly had the margin on and they needed the speed. And so that created this kind of new dynamic that they needed of this visibility and to be able to switch from mode to mode and geography to geography and supplier. I know that was really interesting for us to watch. It was exciting for us to know that we were partnered with LBN in a way that was accessible.
So it's like, the power of data. It's not only the quality of data through the connectivity, but it's the sense making of data. That's why I think it's really good if you can have that connectivity tissue of Project 44, that getting that data, but then it's the sense making of that data into your overall macroeconomics of your supply chain. Because in the end, with the SAP, we come from that business enabler for a customer to better serve their customer, right? And that is if we think about a mirror image, a supplier's sales order is is a customer's purchase order. It's the same set of data. And if we can correlate that business processes, but also have this enriched data that is network enabled, then you can both work on the same set of visibility, and then being able to take that back into your enterprise for that much predictive and intelligent decision making. And that is something that I think a company will more and more realizing they need. They basically need that operational power to be able to gain the agility and resilience.
I think you bring up a great point. I know when we started Project 44, and maybe even when LBN, I'd be curious to know the answer. A lot of it was just that initial, let's get high quality data, and let's get synchronous data so that more parties can get access. And a lot of that started with trucks or maybe containers. And now, I think you brought up a great point that customers are quickly, as we sit here September 2020, and I think COVID was a great accelerator, they're not very interested in that truck anymore. They say, hey, we have the data, we're making sense of the data. Now let's talk about the sales order, let's talk about the PO, and let's collaborate across their suppliers, whether it's a carrier, regardless of the mode, or it's multiple vendors that could supply them the product. Is that the reason you think that open networks are so critical, that agility? Do you see that similar, or how do you interpret those signals?
Yeah, I think, network by nature calls for the openness and really needs to be, in some ways, back-end agnostic. So that's also a new culture at SAP. We're the world leader in enterprise software. We also want to make our network open, because in today's world, customers need to be plug and play and adopt different innovations and being able to also move really quickly. So, and that is something that we at LBN, right, we started the journey of being this network of networks, meaning that we really wanted to come from our core strength by stitching all the business processes together, the business partners together, the aggregating the enterprise level data of sense making. But then we want to partner with the best of the market and on the white spaces that to make sense of these things, to accelerate in certain areas. That meaning that the network itself needs to be built on the capability of interoperability. Meaning that for SAP customer, they may be coming to one-stop shop for that seamless business trading partner management and services. But then the services and value-added capabilities doesn't have to be limited with SAP applications and capabilities. Here we also would be leveraging a lot of our partner ecosystem to offer that extended reach, whether it's the connectivity or the data or even application capabilities in many sense to offer that really all the value to everybody in this network. Traditionally, when you think about the network, it's very one-sided, right? So at SAP, we have supplier network, which is very buyer-funded. We have the LBN, which is, of course, we started in the shipper side, but we quickly learned we need to love the carriers just as much. And we need to have more connectivity to the market power who has that carrier experience. And then we have our asset manufacturing network, where we came from very heavy end of the operator view. And then, so in other words, in a network, a true open network, both sides need to see value, and they need to find that mutual ground and also the new business model they can transact for this real end-to-end flow. And that's our inspiration. It's also, we just launched a huge investment at SAP, making business network the big bet of SAP 2020 and beyond strategy. So I'm really excited. It's not only that now we can make a logistic business network much more extended for our customer base, but it's also channeling, connecting to our manufacturing asset networks, to our supply networks, to our demand networks, financial networks, so on and so forth. So it's also very exciting time at SAP.
That's all really exciting, Paige. I love that overview and that insight. As I sit back and I think about what you just said, and I think about how well positioned SAP is, and the accounts that you have spent decades acquiring and servicing and delighting. And I think about this progressive idea you have of open networks. And then I think about what Bill Gates said, that we often overestimate what can be accomplished in 2 years and underestimate what can be accomplished in 10 years. What do you think? Can you be bold enough maybe to, how does this play out in 10 years? Or maybe what do you think the 2 year is, and what do you think the 10 year is with these open networks, companies that you're partnering with, whether it's Project 44 or maybe someone else that you all bring in. But then, as you mentioned, the software you already have deployed, there's so many of the pieces that are right there that now you're able to connect together. What do you think the world looks like in September of 2030?
good question. Wish I have a crystal ball. But let's start with 2 years because we're very concrete there, and then I'm sure that you and I also already painted a journey how we can make this 2 years great. So 2 years, will be focusing on connecting that end-to-end supply chain to the demand chain, and really focus on multi-enterprise level of intelligence and resilience. And that is really span across the entire end tier of suppliers, the end tier of the customer experience, the overall product as a service, as a new business model. That it really retransform the role of logistics to enable all of these end to end. Then that's what we really will be focusing on, is because right now I think we all need to rise up and recover from the current crisis, and it also presents a brand new business opportunity that customer can redesign their ecosystem, and then using the right technology and the right partners to really embark a journey together. 10 years, I think, I don't know that 10 years I'm still around. I hope so. But it's really then that it is really, what is that next disruption? What is that next epics? You will see a lot of investment at SAP that we're going back to our roots of knowing the industries. And we will be more addressing not only just these macro level of challenges, but we will also addressing specific industry needs and growth, whether it's consumer product retail, whether it's IM&C automotive. So there will be a very strong focus into those segmentations. And then we wanted to also introduce the overall customer experience that is from our roots of B2B, but end to the C. So we will also be enabling our B2B to enable their C to that experience economy. And sustainability will be another big area, so that we, as SAP, as we think we're also have a certain responsibility to the world and to societies there. We are also working with a lot of different world organizations to be part of that, how we can enable, how can we reduce plastic of the world, how can we make sure that we can really have sustainability built in from the very beginning. Not only just the material, but the entire carbon footprint, the logistics, the service, everything end to end. So I think, that takes us way beyond the supply chain into the financial world and to the compliance world and sustainability world, and you name it. And then we have to continue to partner and to look where the next disruption would be, right? What would be your take? You started with this very unique and niche idea with Project 44. Where will you move? How do you? Where do you want to take Project 44?
Did some judo on me. Flipped the question back on me. Tough. Well, what I like, and I think you really did a good job of articulating it, is these open networks. We talk, we're on a channel. FreightWaves does a great job for transport logistics and growing with supply chain. But it's so quick when we're talking about these open networks, how fast it starts to get into areas that just transportation logistics typically didn't touch. Maybe it was a line item on a P&L, but now you're talking about the strategic initiatives with finance. You're also talking about their corporate responsibility and the opportunity that's presented by these logistics open networks to help with carbon footprints and plastic. And I think you guys are also so uniquely positioned to have information across a truly global supply chain, and not just so many folks think transportation, they think supply chain, but really the sourcing of everything that a corporation does. It's quite incredible. So where do I think it ends? 2 years. I am happy to see that A lot of companies now, it's no longer discussions about synchronous versus asynchronous or legacy technologies like EDI, one-to-one versus one-to-many, and synchronous API. So that seems like that'll probably be put to bed by the end of 2020. So that's exciting. When I think about visibility, and what Gartner has told us is that it's the largest from a supply chain software. It has the most amount of inquiries. And so I think that's really encouraging too, because when an open network, when it's a flywheel, and flywheel shouldn't be confused with network effects for the audience, but that flywheel is really starting to spin fast. The more companies that have visibility that are on SAP or Logistics Business Network or Project 44, it just becomes more and more powerful. And if we're able to make sense of that data, to your point, and do some really interesting modeling out that creates that agility, it'll be really interesting to see how that impacts the next 2 years. I'm very bullish of what will happen in the next 2 years. I could see it reflected in numbers that we can quantify. I'm sure you all are experiencing the same thing with GTT and LBN, and you're seeing these deals and these large companies, even in times where corporate spending's been put on hold for a lot of cases, you're seeing them have deploy capital for these types of solutions. And so I'm optimistic a lot of kind of these basic next generation technologies will be deployed in 2 years. If I think 10 years out and just listening to you and all the different sectors and industries, it is interesting, like automotive, how much that's going to be disrupted. And retail is going to be disrupted over the next 10 years. And yes, I think there'll still be retailers, and I still think there'll be automotive, but how many of those automotives will be autonomous, and how many of them will be have an alternative energy? And that, of course, has the disruption of the supply chain. And so the open networks are big accelerators that I think allow for much more disruption to happen faster than we've ever seen in mankind. So in my opinion, I think the companies that are making the investments over the next 2 years will ultimately dominate in the next 10 years. And they're really set that vision as to what's going to happen in 10 years. And there are really a lot of creative CEOs out there, and folks at all different levels that I think will define what the future looks like in 10 years. So quite exciting. I'm curious, Paige, why did SAP choose to partner with Project 44?
When the first time we met, when you explained the vision being that connectivity tissue, that's where a first impression that we already really resonate the message to us. And I think if I have to just break into a very basic terms, Project 44 has this aggregated power, multi-modal global reach to always answer the question, where's my truck, where's my container? And then if this can be combined with SAP logistics network, then together we will have that complete visibility, where's my inventory and where's my order. And that is what is the impact when that real-time visibility, or should a disruption happens, exception happens, what will unfold in my supply chain. And I think that is very powerful. We saw a lot of good technology partners, so they can do a lot of fancy things here and there. But it was very important to have that data integrity, to have that global reach, and then to have that aggregation truly being the connectivity tissue. So that's and of course, it's been a great journey and fun working with you guys. And then absolutely, I think both sides it's been a pure pleasure.
Well, Paige, thank you for joining today. It's been very exciting having this conversation with you. I'm looking forward to the next time we connect.
Thank you, Jett, and thank you everybody for having me.